Today we have a very special guest. This is Jennifer, also known as the Vegan Tech Nomad on Instagram and pretty much everywhere on social media you can find her. So Jennifer is followed by over 100,000 people. We're very lucky to have her to tackle how ADHD brains actually learn best. And you're going to want to stick around to learn about some of her science-backed tactics that you can try during your exam seasons when you're in university, and also just learn about how to build great systems to learn better, right? So that's my intro for you, Jennifer. Do you want to introduce yourself? Because I probably butchered that.
No, you pretty much covered everything. I think the one thing I want to focus on is I want to make life fun because usually studying and all of this admin work is so boring, but I create systems to make it more fun and exciting. So you don't have to suffer through things when you can just create something to do the same thing and accomplish the same result, but way more fun.
I love that. And I think fun is so important. That's what we aim to do as well. Because you hear like I'm applying to universities, and I think it's pretty much as dry as something can be. So the more fun we can bring to that and the studying, the better. So I wanted to, I want to chat a little bit about your journey first, about, like how ADHD impacted how you study and work, where you went to school. So do you want to maybe just catch us up on how you ended up being one of the most followed people on creating systems specifically for, living a productive life and having fun and around ADHD? How did you get here?
Yeah, so this is a very long story. I don't know if people are going to believe this, but I was a very shy kid in high school. Like everybody knew me as that girl who kind of kept to herself, didn't really talk to too many people. So I actually went from that when I entered university to being the valedictorian speaker at convocation, which was like, how did this happen? And I think I was already I was pretty much an overachiever. I really wanted good grades. I try to keep organized. It's like the eldest daughter of an Asian family kind of thing. I made sure everything was early, which is why I was in denial about ADHD for so long because I was like, I can't, I'm so organized. But then I start having these systems that reveal oh, I thought this was me being fun, being smart with the study hacks, but in reality it was ADHD coping mechanisms. But I can elaborate more about those study hacks later. I went into university, and because I was such an overachiever, I immediately signed up for all these mentorship programs because I knew they would help me with academics. They would save me a lot of time. So asking for help was a big thing that helped me. And then because I was a mentee in my first year, which I highly, highly recommend to everybody, the mentorship program in Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at SFU is where I got my mentorship. But I think every university has this. And the next year, they were always looking for more volunteers. So they're like, hey, since you were part of this program, do you want to come back and be a mentor? And I was so shy. I was like, no, I'm not a leader. And the person running the program told me something that changed the whole trajectory of my life, which was that a leader is not somebody who just tells other people what to do and bosses people around. It's actually somebody who accomplishes great things and empowers and inspires other people to do the same. And he said that, Jennifer, you are already a leader because I see you helping all your other people in the program. So I think you would be a really good fit for the program. So when he gassed me up like that, I was like, okay, I have no choice but to join. And then I met new people, and then they kept pushing me to try new things. So then I started doing public speaking. I started my own club, the knitting club, which I didn't even know how to do, but apparently I found out that nobody knows what it's no one knows what to do. So I just had to go for it and then take the next step and keep figuring it out from there. I also ran for student politics, which meant I had to do a lot of public speaking. I had to be very public. But I made it fun because I put meme campaign posters around school. And that was also kind of how I studied. I make memes of my course content to remember it better. And it actually saved me in some
Memes of your
exams.
course content to study better?
Yeah, I remember I was in a calculus class once, and then I was making puns and jokes and memes. And then during the exam, my mind blanked, and I was like, maybe I can get some bonus marks if I write a little math joke on the side, and then the person marking it will laugh and give me a bonus point. But then the math joke itself was the solution to the problem I was stuck on. So I was like, oh my God. It's I passed that class because of that joke. And yeah, and then basically because I was so involved in school and helping other people, which is another study tip of mine, I love helping other people, and like I won't do the boring admin work for myself, but if it's to help other people, like I'm gonna do it. That's what gives me the dopamine. And yeah, so that's basically how I became the convocation speaker, and I got more confident. And then I even started a startup with some of my friends at SFU, which led to getting my first job in pretty much like the same industry. And then as part of that job, it was a marketing job. They made me make TikTok content. And I was like, it was so bad when I first started, but like I posted every day, and like I know consistency is a big thing with ADHD people. So I really had to like make it fun and exciting, and like I didn't really like force myself to do it. I just made it easier to do it. And then I grew that work TikTok account to like 50K. And I was like, dang, I wish I did this for myself. Then I grew it for myself to like 80K on Instagram now. And I got laid off from my work. So now I'm just doing my thing full time, which works for me because, my schedule is too chaotic for traditional work.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I didn't, by the way, I like to always say I do a little bit of research, but not too much. I had no idea that you were the convocation speaker for your graduating class. I think we've got the
Yeah.
right person to give the study tips on the pod. That's awesome. And
Yeah, to be honest, I think what I remember most from my university experience is always like the extracurriculars, the fun times I had with people, fun events that I hosted for students. Because I talked to some of my other friends and they were like, oh, every day I just went to campus and I went home, I studied, I don't remember what I did in university. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I made so many good friends there. We're still friends to this day. Like, there's just so many good memories. And I really wish more people knew that so they could also get involved.
yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, the involvement is what you remember the most from that experience, right? And before we turned on the recording, you were talking earlier about how it felt like the world was ending when you were actually applying to universities. Now you're an adult. You were a convocation speaker. You went to your dream school. You have the degree. You've gone through the process. How did it like? You were an overachiever. Can we go back to what life was like in grade 12 for you? How did you navigate all that? And what tips do you have for the students that are going through it?
Yeah, so grade 11 and 12 were really hard for me because I had to like apply for all these scholarships, which was so much admin work on top of my schoolwork already. And yeah, it was just so much because I hate admin work. It's so boring. And I had to like basically do it every day. And then also the anxiety kind of waiting for the results of admission of scholarship stuff. I did get some help from like the career counselors at my school, which was really good. But I had to pretty much still do everything myself. Like I wrote all of my scholarship applications myself, and all of that was so painful. I do like writing and creative writing, so that's why I ended up doing it and not procrastinating. Like when there's a deadline, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Like there's the pressure, which really helps me. But I remember lying in bed crying one night, like it was 1 a.m. or something, and I was like, I think this is the hardest moment of my life, which is wild because I was literally like 18 years old or like 17, which is so young. But I was lying there so stressed out because I'm like, okay, I have like these 10 applications to write. I have like all these essays and then all this homework, and I have to do all of this before that week ends. And it was just so stressful, but it was worth it, especially because I had other friends who were doing the same thing. So it was like a bit of a community, so I didn't feel alone. But it was also worth it because I ended up getting a full ride to SFU. So I don't have student loans. So I was like, thank God for my previous self for like
Yeah.
pushing through that because the reward and the payoff was way worth it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm so glad you're sharing that as well. I think we, in the kind of work we do with helping students get into, there's so much celebration, but it's hard. It's very stressful sometimes. And how did you keep a good head on your shoulders in that process? And how'd you go through it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is community. So like the career counselors, I knew they knew I was applying for this stuff. So I was like, I can't let them down, which kind of overrided my aversiveness to admin work and applying and stuff. So I was like, because I don't want to let people down, I have to do it. And then once I applied, it's like a small pain and then big payoff, or like big potential payoff. Like of course I didn't get some scholarships and I was very disappointed and upset, but I think if you learn the skills to self-soothe, which I had to do a lot, like telling yourself, like validating your sadness and being like, it's okay, we'll get the next one. then it's so much like you're able to bounce back more. Like I was reading this ADHD book and they talked about Coach A and Coach B. And like there's this little kid who was playing baseball and Coach A was like when he missed the shot, I don't know how they call it in baseball because I don't know this game, but like he basically missed. Coach A was like, "You suck. Like that was such an easy hit. Why did you miss? You know, you don't deserve to be here. Like why are you even on the team?" And so the kid was like feeling super discouraged. He doesn't want to play anymore. Like Coach A is being so mean. But if he had another coach, Coach B, who's like, "Oh, it's okay that you missed this. Like, you know, you'll get it next time. Just like improve a little bit, and like now you know what to do." Now the kid is like, "Okay, I'll try again next time." Like he's still sad, which is fine because Coach B was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine that you're sad. Like I get it." But then it's also encouraged to try again. So a lot of us talk to ourselves like Coach A, which is like, why would you do that? Because it's making you discouraged from trying again. So I have to catch myself in that thinking and talk to myself more like Coach B. So I'm more encouraged to try again.
Coach B. That's awesome. I think so many students need that. I think so many of them are feeling that pressure, and um, they're often battering on themselves like Coach A, especially the high achievers, right? Which you were and to this day are in that process, right? And I want to now dive into, you go through the process, you get to your dream school, you have the heaviest course load you've ever had, you're at university. Like how do you like when did you first realize ADHD was shaping the way you study and work, and how did you begin navigating that at university?
It was actually only after university that I realized because I was in denial for the longest time. I'm like, I have good grades, I'm organized, like it's not possible. But then I went viral on social media and I got in a relationship and people started pointing out the signs. And I went to therapy as well. And then my therapist was like, yeah, there's something here. So I was like, I can't deny this any longer. And I looked back on my memories and how I was studying and I was like, wait, I don't think normal people do this. So I can share some of the things that I did that I thought were like genius study hacks, but because I was like, I'm the only one doing this. Like, why did and nobody think of this before? And it was because they didn't have ADHD, I guess. So something that I would do is I had to commute to school. So I was like, let me make use of this commute time. So I recorded myself going through my lecture material. Like if it was a chemistry class, I would go through like the equations and like talk about it, basically teaching myself in the recording. And then when I went to school, I would listen to the recording and that would be my study time. But sometimes I would walk around my neighborhood and listen to the recording. So when it was exam time, I would just picture myself walking around the neighborhood and that would jog my memory. It's called method of loci in psychology, I think. But the I have to be moving basically. Like I can't just sit down and study. I have to be like walking around my neighborhood or commuting. And that really helped me with some of my exams. Another thing that helped was when I was in lecture, like you can't, for me, I can't just sit there and pay attention. Like just, I can't listen to the professor talking. It was really difficult. And so what I did was take notes instead. So that was how that's how I stayed focused because if I didn't take notes, I'd be like on social media or doing some other, student politics work. So I was like, okay, let me open up a blank document and like literally type down what the professor is saying. And when I worked, I was in meetings and I was like typing down meeting notes as well. And my bosses would always be like, wow, Jen, you're so organized. You document everything. That's what I went viral for as well. Like I document all my work because bad memory. I think that's an ADHD thing. But it's like I have to do that to stay focused. And then afterwards, I would send all the notes to the class group chat because I knew people were relying on me for the notes. That's like another system that I had. So like I had to take these notes to focus. I had to take them to send to other people to get that dopamine hit from when people are like, thank you so much for your help.
Right.
I had to keep on top of my homework. I always did it early because I was also helping other people in the chat with their homework because it's like the dopamine rush from helping other people and just like feeling great about that. So like my deadline for myself was always before the course deadline, like the homework deadline. So that's how I was able to stay on top of all those things. And I was like, this is so easy. But then it's just ADHD hacks.
Well, I mean, they work. And before we get into the study tips, could you like give us a quick so some things you mentioned there, movement helps attention, dopamine. Like, could you cover like really quickly a little bit more about maybe for the people at home that are maybe hearing about those things for the first time, like how dopamine is used in helping you study better or organize your time better to achieve things, and how movement helps retention, which is honestly a new topic for me as well. So, could you speak to that a little bit before we go into the tips? People can know how to navigate it.
Yeah, so I think for me, dopamine is like my motivation pretty much. So if something is gonna be feel rewarding or fun or exciting, then I'm gonna do it. That's dopamine at work. So that's why I had to like make my studying so much more fun. Like I have to make memes, I had to help other people because that was fun for me. If I was just sitting there like writing down my notes or like doing flashcards, like I tried the flashcard method, but that just doesn't work because I'm by myself. I'm reading things and it's like so boring. I even like at some point I was like, I'm very like tech focused, so that gives me dopamine and that motivates me. So at some point I tried to take my readings in psychology. You have to read a bunch of boring papers, and I try to like copy paste them and like turn them into a voice to text podcast for myself to listen while I'm on my run or my walk. So I'm like trying to find all these things to give me dopamine because I know that's what motivates me and that's what actually gets me to get things done. And then what was the other? I already forgot the other part.
Movement, and retention was the other one. And dopamine, I think as you're talking, I'm realizing that even when I was at my best at studying, I think I had an English paper to write, and I needed to learn about like specific ways to analyze certain things. It was going to be a timed exam, and I think I analyzed like a song that I really liked, like a rap song that I really liked at the time, and that got me to do the analysis that I wouldn't that I've been trying to do for hours, and that worked, which then got me prepped for the exam. So I'm just realizing that that's worked really well for me in the past as well. But now we
Yeah.
went to movement and retention. What's the science behind that? How does that work?
Yeah, for me, I have a lot of energy. Like if I'm just sitting there listening to lecture or like just sitting there trying to do homework, if it's boring work that isn't really engaging and I'm like about to fall asleep, then I'll like I feel this urge to always just like be up and moving, like even now I don't work sitting down because it's so hard to focus that way. Like I have a standing desk and a standing pad, so like I notice that when I'm walking while at my desk, or if I'm even just standing and I can like move around and stuff, then it's so much easier to focus because that energy kind of like comes out that way. Otherwise, it's just like I can't just sit here. Like there's stuff that I need to be doing, like I need to be moving. So it's that part of like creating an environment that you can succeed in instead of like trying so hard to force yourself to do something that is boring or something that you don't like. It's like you with your English paper. Instead of writing on a song that you didn't care about, you wanted to analyze a song that you actually liked and were interested in. That way it engaged you more and made it more fun and easier.
I think what you said there is brilliant. You're better off creating an environment that you can succeed in, whether that's applying to a school, studying better, versus trying to just like whip yourself into like working harder. That's just not going to work very well, and it's going to be not a fun experience. So focus on designing the right environment to study in, than not. So that just struck with me. That's why I'm saying it out loud. That's awesome. And I want to now go into your study tips. I know they talk about some of these things. So do you want to take it away for the students that are either in high school getting ready to, my grades really matter now. I got to get ready to go to university, or maybe they're entering university, or maybe they're a parent and they're like, how can I help my child out? What tips do you have being, a very successful academic student?
Yeah, so I would say my best tips I shared already, but I can share some more. So they were making it more fun, as in making memes, puns, and jokes about my course material. Because that way I got to be creative, and I love being creative.
Not
I
your
feel like
teachers,
not my. Oh
but
yeah,
not, but
don't,
not your
don't make
teacher.
don't make memes of your teacher. Um, but yeah, it was. I also went to every office hour because I actually like wanted to chat with my teachers. I got some of my teachers' star signs because like I was just the only one going to office hours, and then we built a relationship, and that was really fun for me. But they also really helped me like learn one on one because for some reason, like it's so much easier to like just talk to people and learn that way. Like I can't if they're talking at me and I have no interaction with them, it's like it's so hard. I have to like have all these notes and like all these study hacks. But if I'm talking to someone and I'm engaged in the conversation, it becomes easier. So office hours are so worth it. But yeah, the memes one is one of my best. One of the other ones that I hear a lot about is body doubling. So like if I'm in a library or like I have a study date with my friend, like I know for sure I'm gonna be doing that work because everybody else is doing the work and it kind of pressures me as well. Um, and then like taking notes during lecture, all of that stuff. But one unconventional hack that I have is I used to have lecture recordings, but if I didn't have the lecture recordings, I would make my own. Like I would teach myself the content. And then because sometimes the recordings are boring, I would kind of fight not to fall asleep. But then I'm like, wait, why am I fighting this? So then sometimes before I go to bed, I would just like listen. And then I think there's some science behind it where like maybe your brain is in a susceptible influential state or something. So like I'm listening to these recordings while I sleep and literally it's the easiest study hack ever because all you're doing is being put to sleep by these boring lectures and then you just sleep for 8 hours and then that's like playing in the background. Maybe your brain retains some information. I don't know for sure, but it can't help to try. And the other
That
hack,
one. It's like
yeah,
8 hours of retention as you're going to bed listening to tips. That's as unconventional study tips get.
yeah, because like I love learning in all different ways. Like first, there's like the just listening to things with the audio recordings, the lectures. There's also like writing down what you learn with the lecture notes. There's also talking with the professors during office hours or the TAs during office hours. There's like studying with friends, so like you're teaching them some material, or like you're recording your own lectures, teaching yourself. So like as many of those as I can get is like my preference, but according to Bloom's taxonomy, which is like how people learn best, the best way to learn is by teaching it to other people. So that's why I like recording my own lectures so that I can teach it to myself.
I love yeah, you can, and if you have the body doubling, which is having people around you to, in a positive way, pressure you to work, you can teach them too, which is so good.
Yeah, there's like other ways to learn really well that I didn't try, but I know this is science backed. Like if you are able to make a connection to your life or like tell yourself a story. So let's say you're trying to remember all the different parts of your brain. You tell yourself a story about like, some little guy who got shrunk and like is walking around touring the areas of the brain and then like what they're doing in each section of the brain that corresponds to the brain function and like the name of the brain like okay maybe you're in biology and you're like learning what you know substrate is or something and then it's like oh like subway like maybe this guy goes and gets a Subway sandwich and then like if you tell yourself a story like maybe you're able to remember it more. There's been like $10 million businesses built on this storytelling method to teach people languages. It's called
Hmm.
story learning. I very much look up to them, but like it's basically a proven method to get you to remember and learn better so you can have fun coming up with these stories and it feels more like play than studying.
Okay, that's awesome. I didn't even consider that, but there's definitely some things definitely stick in your brain better than others. 100%. There's a reason we remember songs, and I literally can't even remember the bullet point and grocery list that I made, right? So there's definitely something to it. And then I wanted to get your feedback on tools. Notion pages. I know it's a big part of what you do. Reward jars, habit trackers. What are your opinions on tools? How should students use them, and what tools do you recommend they use?
Yeah, actually, a trap that I see a lot of people fall into is like they get into that analysis paralysis stage where it's like, I need to find the best tool. Like they spend all this time researching things and then suddenly hours are gone and you haven't made progress. So for me, the best tool when I was in school was just Google Docs because I could
Right.
type stuff and then share it with people and we could study together. That was like the only thing I used, Google Docs, Google Drive. I shared my notes with so many people that Facebook Messenger banned my Google Drive link because it got shared around too much. Um, but yeah, I just say keep it simple based on what you're familiar with and what works for you.
That's awesome. I love that. And, uh, with this as well, I want to ask you now, how do you decide to ditch a tool when it's not working? So we see it, students are like, I'll use Notion, I'll use Asana, or whatever they're looking at. And they start, and as you mentioned, they've been in analysis paralysis for so long, and now they're trying to make it work. How do you decide this thing isn't working and I should probably stop?
Yeah, I think I usually decide that when I notice I'm spending more time kind of cleaning up stuff instead of doing the important work. So it's like the busy admin work that I don't like instead of the actual studying and taking notes. So I did used to use Notion templates. Like Notion has all these pretty little templates for school for you to organize your classes. So I did that for some online classes because I was an overachiever and like on top of my regular coursework, I wanted to take online classes as well. And but after the online course is over, it's like I don't really need it anymore. So that's when I ditched it. It happens with my to-do lists as well. Like I'll notice I have this entire list of like, okay, these are all the scholarships I have to apply to. And then like all these other things that I have to do. Suddenly the list gets so long that I'm like,
Right.
oh, I'm overwhelmed. I'm burnt out. This is too much. So then now what I do is like I start a completely new list and then the stuff that is important, I'll move over. And then the stuff that I'm like, okay, I don't care about this. This can be later. Then I won't work on it. But the thing is for the to-do list, like let's say you have 10 scholarships to apply for and the way that I would split it up is not put all 10 on the to-do list for today. I split it up into today, tomorrow, and later because I can't think further than today and tomorrow. I think that's an ADHD thing. But basically under today, I put like 3. And under tomorrow, I'd put maybe like the rest of like the 7. So usually what people do is they put all 10 under today. And then so when they complete 3 or 4, they're so overwhelmed. They're like, oh, I only did 4 out of 10. This sucks. I'm behind. I feel burnt out. And then you're like so discouraged. But if you split it up into 3 under today and then the rest in tomorrow, and you complete 4 or even 3, you're like, yay, I did my work today. I feel so excited. I'm done. And then I can rest guilt free because rest is important. But then if you still feel like you have energy and time, then you can keep applying. So like, let's say you did 4, so 3 under today and 1 under tomorrow. Suddenly you're like, oh, I'm an overachiever. This is so fun. You feel more motivated to continue applying
Yeah.
for these scholarships. But in those scenarios, you only applied for 4. One, you're like burnt out, overwhelmed, stressed, and then the other one, you're like, yay, I can do this. I was an overachiever.
Totally.
So it's like making it easier for yourself.
Yeah, and you've done the same amount of work, but you're feeling so much better about in one
Yeah.
situation, whereas the other one you're angry with yourself, and it's like it's like I'm being given a great lesson for myself because I do that. Or my to-dos are endless, and I'm an optimist, so I'll overextend and think, okay, I can like do all this in one day. Whereas like if I just have 2 things on there or whatever arbitrary number of amount that's actually attainable, I'll get it done and then I can go even further. And I think that bucketing of today, tomorrow, or whenever I'm ready, and then you can drag things out of the whenever you're ready when you look at it is awesome. That makes so much
Yeah.
sense.
The other thing is that I wouldn't even put finished scholarship application. I would put actually like the most minimum action ever. So like write 1 sentence for a scholarship essay and that's it. Because like after you write 1 sentence, it's like, okay, now that you already started, it becomes a lot easier to keep going. But then you also don't feel bad if you don't keep going. And that's kind of how I started. Like I'm a marathon runner. So at first I was like running for 1 hour every day is too much. So I actually started by running for like just 20 minutes every day. If I couldn't do that, I was like, I don't want to change. It's dark out. It's rainy. I don't want to go outside. So I literally was running around my living room in circles in my pajamas. That was like the most minimum thing. I'm like, I can't say no to that. Like I have to do it. And then it became easier and easier. So now I do run for an hour every day.
I love that. If you're struggling to get the work done, make the first step so small and so minor that you can't get it wrong. Maybe it's titling and writing down one of your notes or answering one of your 50 practice questions that you have to do or writing the first sentence of a university application versus trying to write the whole thing. You just can't, like, I can do that. Like something so little where you can't turn it down. And that's awesome.
Yeah, because like something I hear a lot from people, especially people with ADHD or students, they're like, I don't have time for this. I'm too busy. But I'm like, people who feel like they can't stay consistent because they're not disciplined enough. And they're like, I'm lazy, I could never stay consistent. But, you stay consistent with brushing your teeth almost daily. So I'm like, if you can take 2 minutes to brush your teeth every day, like maybe you can habit stack and combine that with something else. Like maybe while you're brushing your teeth, you can think about like the to-do list or like the minimum action that you have to do. Like there's things that you can do. Like it's not a question of laziness or discipline because I'd say I'm pretty lazy as well. It's more of a question of building a system that works for your brain.
Yeah, and that's I think it's in the book Atomic Habit. I think you're talking about habit pairing, right? Like you're taking an action that you know you're going to take, and then attempting to pair something new with it. And if you repeat it enough times, it'll work, which is really good. Whether it's a sticky note on your mirror where you write down your things as you brush your teeth, totally love that. Now, I was wondering, a couple questions we had here was what do you think is the ideal study session month?
With the ideal study session length,
Yeah.
mm, it really depends for me because I feel like I can't stick to a schedule. Sometimes I'll sit down and like just hyper focus for 2 hours because I'm just so interested in the material that I have to sit there for like 2 hours just to get everything done. Other times I'm like, I really can't, I'm not feeling it today. It's too sunny. Like I want to be outside, and then it would be like 15 minutes. So I think it really depends on how I'm feeling that day. But I'd say usually if I'm like sitting down and like ready to focus and get work done, it'll probably be in 30-minute chunks. So like I'll sit down for 30 minutes and then, I get a snack or like a little break and then go back into it.
So are you a fan of the Pomodoro method, or you do not like it? How do you feel about that?
I've never tried it. I'm sure it works, but what works a little better for me is having a timer for a specific task. So like let's say I want to read this paper and like take notes on it. I'll be like, okay, let me set a timer and then have it count down. And then the timer is like right in front of me. So I'm like,
I'm
oh
that
my God, I
too.
need to lock in.
I literally have a
Yeah.
timer on my desk.
Yeah,
I love that
I
one.
love
Yeah.
that. But then I don't always take the breaks when they tell me to. So it just, I just go based on my vibes. I don't want something to tell me what to do. I'm not very structured. So
I love that. There's a great irony, and that's hilarious. And then I want to now my last question for you today. And then I want you to share where people can find your work and they can go deeper with learning more about what you do. Is what is your main advice for a student heading into admission season, heading into a busy exam season where they have a lot going on? What is your one mantra or advice you're going to give them from everything you know so they can walk out of it unscathed?
I think people are expecting me to give study hacks and tips like that. But I think my biggest thing that I had to, I spent years in therapy learning is being gentle with yourself because something with my brain is there's rejection sensitivity and I'm very hard on myself. There's all or nothing thinking, which is like, okay, if I get below this letter grade, then like I'm a complete failure when that's not true at all. It's not either or, like sometimes it's a spectrum and that's okay. So I really had to learn to talk to myself like Coach B, and no matter if I almost fail an exam, which I did, like physics first year was so bad for me. Even though I love physics, but it was just not a good time. But it's like you have to be okay with that, and like you have to kind of coach yourself to be okay with the highs and lows in life, not just school, because they're gonna happen. And if you keep beating yourself up like Coach A, you're gonna be less likely to want to try again and keep working towards your goals. But if you know how to think like Coach B and you treat yourself gently, you self-soothe and validate your feelings, then you're gonna be up and running again to try again, which ultimately leads to success.
Yeah. Okay, that's great advice. And I'm so glad you talked about dealing with failure. I think a lot of people listen and they hear your credentials, what you've accomplished academically in your career, and then you're the convocation speaker because you're a very academic audience, and they're like, oh, well, she's got to be like perfect. And then you talked about failing your first course, and I love that because I think people even need to make that okay for students, right? So, well, those things do happen. And now, we're here with admission prep. We support students getting into universities, and you have a lot of great tools for students, young people, parents, and that want to learn about what you do. Where can listeners go to find you? Where can they go deeper with your work and learn a little bit more about you?
Yeah, so my biggest platform is Instagram, but I would suggest YouTube because I do a deeper dive in my systems, and some of the YouTube videos can be pretty long. So I recommend just listening while you're on a walk or while you're making food and doing chores, because I dive into some unhinged stuff there.
That's funny. I love that. Okay, and what are your handles, just so we can call them out?
Yeah, it's vegan tech nomad across all platforms.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today, Jennifer. And for the folks listening at home, you can find Jennifer. It's at Vegan Tech Nomad. She's given us some great study tips for those that are listening. If you're wanting to learn about them, you can look her up. If you're wanting help with the admissions process, want to learn about what we do and want support with that, you can check us out at admissionprep.com. And thank you for joining us today, Jennifer.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was really fun.